All right.
Hey, John. Sorry for your trouble getting in.
It's the town network. It wouldn't let my town laptop connect.
Weird.
Interesting.
Okay, well, let's call the meeting to order. We can get started.
Okay.
All set.
First of all, I would apologize. We were planning to meet in person, but we just realized that with the extravaganza going on, parking may be at a premium, and so it might have been difficult to get everybody in to park, let alone meet. So,
Right.
In some cases, this Zoom is easier. In some cases, as John discovered, it's not as easy as you might think. So, I apologize for the confusion. I know Tuesday I said we'd meet in person. Then
The parking lot is getting full pretty quick.
yeah, it's a big day. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jim, you have the, let me pull the thing off, Jen. I call the meeting to order. Did that already?
5:42. Roll call. Counselor Braverman,
Here.
Counselor Donahue,
Here,
Counselor Menke.
Here,
You have a quorum, sir.
thanks. And we have Frank, this is your chance to speak, so we'll get you in public participation.
Okay, my name is Frank DeMeo. I reside at 29 Corn Ridge in Newington.
I don't know who that is.
Hang up. Hang up. Hang.
The reason for me appearing before your committee this evening is just as a quick refresher, back in November of 2021, I had submitted to the town council a request to have a portion of a roadway named in honor of the Newington Veteran Firefighters Association. And to this date, I had not heard anything, and I know that I had spoken to you, Tim, on this once before, and you had given me a little bit of a background saying that your committee was looking at changing the whole way that you're going to be doing naming of roadways and doing like some sort of an honor wall in the town hall. And in the meantime, I have spent an awful lot of time doing some research and talking to a lot of veteran firefighters and firefighters in general from the volunteer fire department here in town. And everybody thinks is it a great idea that we try to get this done, but I hear again, being involved in this committee process, I'm not sure how this is going to go. I'm just simply asking for your indulgence to be able to do this in honor of the veteran firefighters. And the main reason behind that is because we have one of the original founding members of the Veteran Firefighters Association who is still alive. This gentleman has served as past fire chief, and he dedicated more than 48 years to the Newington Fire Department. And I thought that this would be a great send-off for this gentleman at age 93. I don't believe he's going to be with us too much longer. And the portion of roadway that I had chosen I felt was very appropriate because the original Veteran Firefighters Association was formed at the old Company 2, which is now Company 5, housing the fire cadets. And this would be something that, every time the cadets were in that area or at the firehouse, they would know that this portion of the roadway was named for the veteran firefighters. And that includes past, present, and all future members of the Newington Fire Department. And I do realize that there is a portion of the roadway here in town that specifically names the Newington Fire Department, but it doesn't take into account the veterans of themselves. And I thought it would be very, very important to have something named for the veteran firefighters. And, that's about all I can say. If you have any issues, questions, or concerns, you know, let's try to discuss them and see what we can come up with. So thank you.
Just the chief's name is Kowalski. What's the chief?
Kolaski,
Right, and that's the room in the fire department, company 1 is named after him, right?
correct.
And that was named, do you know how long that was named? How long ago it was named?
I believe that was named after he retired as the fire chief, and that was back in, I believe it was either the early 90s or the middle 90s, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think it must have been, it must have been recently. For me, 90s is recently, but apparently for other people, 90s is not so recent. Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, Tim, maybe we need to codify hours or years. Once you've retired and you've been gone 10 years, 15 years, you qualify for like that after so many years of service, and then it takes the personality piece out of it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any personality piece. I think from my perspective, I think the issue is, how do I qualify one person's service over another person's service?
Mhm.
Why would, and no disrespect to the chief or to the veterans, but why not the veteran ambulance people why did, what, if I retire from the council, shouldn't I get something because I'm been on the council for 8 years, or shouldn't, somebody else get something because they've been around for a while? And I guess that's my problem is, I think, how do you qualify one over the other, and how do you make one judgment call over something else?
Right.
I mean, this isn't naming a room like in the town hall, like our other request that we had a request from Arbery, Mrs. Arbery, to name a room based on his time of service to the town. Which is well and good, but then what do we do? Do we name something for Paul Botat, who had 31 years? Where do you draw the line? And then we get kind of ludicrous. This tile is dedicated to this person. This water fountain is dedicated to that person. It gets kind of confusing.
Right.
We did meet, and I just looked it up in my records. Last time we met was in April of 2021, and just for your edification, Sharon, we were working on, I think Carol was on the committee at that point.
Yeah.
And we were working on a way to honor. I mean, there's a lot of people in town that give a lot of time to make this town such a special place, and they don't get recognized per se.
Right.
So we had talked at one time about, we had this idea of making a tree with leaves on it, and so there'd be, if you can see this, would be a tree kind of coming in, leaves would be blowing off the tree, and then you'd every leaf would be dedicated to, so if there'd be a leaf, dedicated to Johnny Jones, for his time serving on the Conservation Commission or his time serving on TPZ. But then we realized that was going to get really cumbersome, and it would take up a whole hallway, and more importantly, it would be kind of expensive, and it would be hard to keep up with it. So then we discussed the idea of having a kiosk in the center, like in the center court of the town hall. So you could kind of go to the kiosk and you could type in Johnny Jones' name, and it would tell you Johnny Jones served on these commissions, through his lifetime, or you could type in organizations. You could type in, say, Boy Scouts, and it would say, Troop 347 has been, was formed in, 1948, and went, it's continued. So, and then you get a little synopsis, that maybe the group would write up, so that you kind of get an idea of what these groups are in town, and then you could have this kiosk on a roll, where it would just kind of roll around, and just like up by the At the entrance off of Massacola Way, there's all the mayors are there, and you can watch them kind of scroll through.
Right, right.
So we talked about that, and that was it. That seemed to be promising. The issue we had, I think James very called, there was no plug in the center court, the center
One
hallway.
for the vacuum cleaner.
We have
What's the
exactly
point?
one of them in the entire hallway, yes.
So we would have to have a plug and an outlet installed to do that. But I think that's a way to recognize
Right.
people that don't get, and Mr. Arbery would then beyond that, like, and so would Paul Todd, so you could look up, town employees, and you could see the ones that have been, retired after,
Right.
after 20 years of experience, or, if you reach, you only worked for us for 2 years, I wouldn't put you on the roll, but if you were there for a while.
Mhm.
And then part of that kiosk, I think, which I think is really not the naming, well, maybe it's the naming committee's issue, but we need to get those pictures of those 30 veterans who died from Newington. We need to get them back somehow on some kind of a way to get them on a screen, so they're at least their names periodically show up. I think that's important.
Mhm.
So I guess the other question is, looking at the policy, does this include streets, James, in your estimation?
We don't really call out streets in the policy. Of course,
Right.
it's 2007. Dedication, you could say that is a town feature. Yes. But we look at town-owned property in general, usually meaning a structure or some type.
Or a room, right?
Yeah, when Parks Lands is a little different, but we've got the Clemenere Park because it's an entire
Oh,
park.
land, yeah.
But yeah, with streets, that one gets into a gray area, and that may be a discussion we have to have.
And I know we dedicated street, Richard Street, right? For his name escapes me, fire commissioner, who used to be a police officer.
Bob Seiler.
Saller. I'm sorry. I can picture him, but I can't picture his name.
Right.
So we've done that before, and we've dedicated the street, Garfield Street, is Richard Klett. So,
Right.
but I don't think the Klett came through the naming committee.
It did.
It did,
We made
okay.
a recommendation back to the council.
Okay.
Yep.
That was through COVID, so I don't remember what we did on that one.
Most of us don't remember much what happened in COVID.
But I think Seiler came to the state, right?
Is Ramon a doctor? Ramon Hernandez?
That one I'd have to double check on.
Professor?
Myra
think
Cohen
it-
definitely did.
Myra Cohen was through the state, because that's a
The
state
state
road.
asked us specifically about that.
And Frank, just I know public's over, but I just connect that Maple Avenue, is that a state highway?
No, that's owned by Newington.
Okay.
That's a town road. And I'm only,
Provinces, though.
right, I'm only talking about from the corner of Maple Hill Avenue to the corner of
Robinson.
Robbins and Maple Hill. So you're only talking, what, maybe 3/8 of a mile?
Yeah, so it's a small little street, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't mind me interjecting one little thing, listening to what you were saying, Tim, and I hope that I'm not being out of line here, but everything that you have talked about, basically, you're talking about individuals. I'm talking about a group of veteran firefighters, and here again, I go to past, present, and future. So we're not talking about one individual. We're talking about hundreds to thousands of individuals who have dedicated their time to the town of Newington to protect the residents of this town. And I think that that's a fitting tribute, from my perspective.
Yeah, let me be clear. I was using individuals as an example, but I think the same issue rises with groups. I mean, the veterans are recognized on the Newington Memorial Highway, or whatever it's called, by the street that goes off the southern part of Main Street. So they are recognized there, and I'm concerned that what if Christ Congregational Church wants to name part of Main Street over as after their volunteers. Or
I mean, we're eventually gonna run out of streets.
or it becomes meaningless. I think that's the other issue is, so I don't know what the solution to this is.
Right.
But I agree, Frank, I'm not belittling what the volunteers and what the veterans have done by any means. Certainly they and a lot of other veterans have helped. A lot of other people have helped, other groups have helped our town. And I only speaking of those individuals because those are the last ones we've done as far as I remember.
Understood.
So what if every organization that wants a group named after them just agrees to pay for benches, a gazebo, whatever, and we call it the whatever, like Plum Lemire, but we call it the Veterans of Vietnam Memorial, and there's a bench and a whatever.
Well, that could always happen. I mean, my scout troop could, just using them as an example. I'm not saying we want to do it, but we could, I suppose, petition say we want to put a bench up and put a plaque on it in the honor of Troop 347 and their years of service to the town. We could that's not an issue. I don't think that would just have to go through Parks and Rec to find a place to put the damn bench.
Okay.
But I'm not sure that's what Frank's looking for. He's looking for more of a you'd have to actually sit on the bench to know who was dedicated to, and then you'd have to hope the plaque stayed there more than a year, and someone didn't rip it off and throw it in the pond.
Right.
And in addition to that, you may actually have to look at changing the corporate sponsorship language to be a dedication from anyone. So Section 5 of the policy specifically allows the council to accept or even reject that sponsorship.
Right, because I know this has come up before. I think, especially with the new town hall, we were thinking about, if somebody wanted to dedicate one of the gyms and put their name on it, but I could see like the Coors Light field.
Right.
I'm not sure we want to do that. So I think that's kind of not germane to this conversation. We are
In the first paragraph of the policy, it's very specific about who can name a road.
Where do you see road?
I see public and private streets. I would assume that means the same thing as a road.
Yep.
Says town planning and zoning commission shall have exclusive
Oh.
authority.
Okay.
That naming is actually the name of the street.
The name of
They
the
are the
street,
ones
yeah.
that accept that under the application process.
Yeah, so we aren't looking to rename Maple Hill. We're just looking to dedicate it, or I guess dedicate it, right?
I guess, so I guess the big thing here is what's the criteria? Right? What makes one group,
Yeah, and whatever, certainly if the criteria is length of service, then this would qualify, because the veterans is certainly, they're veterans. They've been firefighters for years, and they're still Frank, you still have an active veterans group, right?
Correct. I'm the president of the Veterans
Oh,
Organization.
congratulations.
We presently have 80 members in that organization, but we also include the rest of the fire department once they qualify as a veteran member. And they're invited to join the veterans group, other than being a veteran of the fire department itself. There's two distinctions.
Okay.
You have the Newington Volunteer Fire Department veterans, and these gentlemen are veterans within their own companies once they qualify after 10 years of service, if they remain. Our part of our bylaws to the veterans organization, once you reach 5 years of service with the Newington Volunteer Fire Department, you're eligible to join the Newington Veteran Firefighters to continue that camaraderie for past, present, and possibly future members.
So are most people in the veterans group, are they also still serving in the fire department?
Some are serving as regular volunteer firefighters besides being the veteran member. We probably have about, I want to say between 18 and 25 members who are still active in the fire department itself. You know, and here again, you know, we have several members of the veterans organization who have reached 50 years of service. That in and of itself is a tremendous amount of time to dedicate to the residents of the town of Newington.
Right.
And here again, that's why I think it's appropriate that that portion of the roadway be named for the veteran firefighters.
And those are the ones that if they're still active, they're recognized at your banquet every year, right?
That's correct.
But if they're not active, then they're not recognized at the banquet.
Well, not necessarily. It all depends on their years of service. If they're up for some sort of an award, you know, depending on the years of service. Because each fire company does their own awards.
Right. Yeah. So that's not part of this group.
No.
And they're recognized like all firefighters on the dedication on south part of Main Street.
Correct. What you were referring to is when we had the awards night back in what, May?
May, I believe, yeah.
The reason that Chief Kolaski was recognized because the fire department had not done award ceremony over the last 2 years due to COVID. And
Right.
this was combined after 2.5 years. So
Yeah.
I know that the chief of the department had approached me as the president of the veterans to recognize Chief Kolaski for his many years of service.
And I think that's totally appropriate. I think that's right. I mean, you put in that much time on one thing, you either you're really dedicated or you're crazy.
And that was the impetus for me to think about coming to the town council and asking for that portion of the roadway. And here again, because that's where that organization was started and he was a member of the company too, I thought it was the perfect place for that for it to be. John shut himself off.
Oh, we lost them, John.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm back. If somebody walked into the office.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, we just. So it just, and I'm not playing devil, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I don't disagree that, we need to recognize the veterans, but how would we say yes to this and no to somebody else? EMS wants a part of John Stewart Drive named.
Yeah.
For the ambulance.
Well, that's in the policy doesn't really set any criteria. I mean, it does set some criteria, but they're pretty broad and open to scope.
Right. I mean, it just, just from if we follow this policy that's from 2007, right? It's just anybody who comes to the town council, it's up to the town council, right? And I can't imagine the town council voting, against the veteran firefighters, right?
No, it's not. Yeah.
But then EMS comes. How do we vote against them?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And then every street has a dedicated sign on it. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to naming the street for the veterans firefighters. It's just how do we quantify that as opposed to everything else.
What is,
And I don't want to get ourselves in a bind where, the street gets together because, on my street, some longtime resident moves or dies, and now they want to name the street, the John Kelly Street because he lived here, he was one of the first residents. So, and again, we always say, what did he contribute to the town? And there's a difference. What the firefighters have contributed to the town, and what John Kelly would have contributed to the town, or Sam Snead, or whatever it is.
I think that's addressed really in this paragraph here,
Yeah,
specifically at the end of it, which says the facilities and their respective features based upon its relationship to the following. And I think A is our closest piece to that, which is
right.
the area or neighborhood that facility is located in. So that would be your justification. That's why you wouldn't have a sign every 40 feet, 60
Right.
feet, 100 feet, because it's got to be respective to a facility itself.
Okay. And do you know, James, if other towns have more specific naming policies?
I don't, but I can always get a quick survey done on it for us for the next meeting.
That would be
Definitely.
great.
And I know that'd be informative for the council as well, if you guys want to read.
I think that's the problem. I mean, I have no problem naming the street after the veterans. I'm just concerned we don't want to set a precedent that everybody wants to get a street named for the group. And how do I determine what one group is legitimate and one group isn't?
Right.
I mean,
I think
certainly-
that makes
certainly
sense.
Whatever criteria we use, the veteran firefighters would meet. I mean, it's a group of people who spent hours and hours and hours, uncountable hours, serving our town over their careers. Chief Kolaski, I mean, it's what, 50 years he's been the fire chief, or firefighter. That's amazing. So whatever criteria we use, they've got to be top of the class. But then I also have the issue, with Mrs. Aubrey, who wants a room named after her husband because of his service to the town. How do we do that and not the other? And I guess that's the problem with this whole process, I think. And naming a street is one thing. Naming a room is a whole different thing. And certainly I should have a much more, I think, much more stringent category, much more stringent qualifications or criteria.
Well, maybe James can get us Rocky Hill, Weathersfield, West Hartford, what their criteria are for naming a street or a bench, and we can copy or cut and paste. They're our neighbors, right?
Yeah, it would be a good idea to add something to this, so we'd have some kind of a definition. I guess I'm more in favor of naming things after groups than I am individuals. I mean,
Yeah.
certainly if, how do you name a street after
well, I
one
did,
person when this is a group of people? I don't know. It's a difficult.
I did reach out to Leon Davidoff, the guy who owns a paper station.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He's a counselor in West Hartford. He said naming buildings, streets, and rooms not done too often. It is a rare exception. We present proclamations of people in recognition of their efforts. Many of these are given at community events. Very few are given at council meetings. And he asked me, sent me, said if I wanted to discuss it further, I could call him.
Well, if you can get some insight from him, that would be a good idea. I think I don't want to be on shaky ground where we approve one and then the next one comes up, we decline it, and then it looks like
Right.
we're showing favoritism over one or the other.
Right.
Plus, I mean, and not that Newington's not political, right? But, right now, this committee has 2 Republicans and a Dem, right? And if we deny a group, right, it's gonna be, those damn Republicans, or if there's 2 Democrats, it's gonna be, those damn Democrats, right?
Exactly. We're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't see that this is,
Politics is a no-win situation.
but I don't see this as a political thing. I think this is more of a procedural thing. How do we do one over the other, and how do we
Right.
Right,
quantify?
well, I'm just saying if there's
Yeah,
not.
no, you're right.
Establish that criteria, right? Because, I mean, things that, this is Newington, things that shouldn't be a political issue become a political issue.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's James, see what you can come up with. John, why don't you
I'll reach out to Leon again.
reach out to Leon, and let's set another meeting like for end of August, or past everybody's vacations, and we'll go from there. I mean, I certainly, given it, I mean, I can't see how they don't qualify. It's just a question of how we quantify
Right.
one over the other.
Mhm.
And not just for this issue, but for ongoing issues. What if somebody comes up and says, I want to, as we're at the council meeting Tuesday, I was thinking, Mr. Casasanta, who has served on conservation for so long and now has died, he should be recognized somehow. And that's why I kind of like the kiosk idea. So there's some way to remember these people. There's some way we enroll these people in I don't know, some kind of I don't know. I can't think how do we recognize people in town and groups who have done so much for the town that don't necessarily get recognized or even people know about.
So Tim, what if we use Myra Cohen as the ballpark, the baseline? Because the race says Myra Cohen Way there. However long she served, that's a minimum to get whatever we did for her. And then we move forward with others. Who else is
could.
there besides Myra's street?
I mean, you could, but how do you say that her years are more important than my years?
Well, I don't know how she got her street there, but
Yeah.
it is.
I mean, certainly she was a great lady and a great town councilor, so there's nothing against that. But how do you?
Right, but other councils must have approved it.
I'm not sure if they did or the state did. I'm not sure with Myra Cohen. I believe the state did.
Okay.
Yeah, Myra Cohen, we were asked for a suggestion for the road. and that's what
Okay.
I'm talking about.
Okay.
Correct.
We were joking because it should have been Myra Cohen's with an apostrophe S way.
Mhm.
Yeah, and instead of Myra Cohen Way, yeah.
Right. Well, I think developing criteria for this is an important thing because people really believe and look to it. So maybe it's something we look at over the summer and bring back to the council in the fall.
Well, I don't want to wait too long. As Frank said, this gentleman who would certainly be we aren't honoring it for him, but certainly he was one of the driving forces to form the fire department. We don't want to let it go too long and miss out on someone. So I think there's some urgency on this to keep it rolling. I don't think we should just let it sit.
Right.
I think that's.
Well, or could we do every quarter? We do honorees and we have some kind of tea and cookies at town hall and honor whoever came forward between the last time and this time.
Well, I know like Parks and Rec does. I think they call it community counts or community, but as you recall, and I think it's in December or January, where they recognize 3 or 4 groups or 5 groups or individuals who have contributed to the Parks and Rec department. And when they come before the council and we read a proclamation and then they put up a plaque down in the Parks and Rec wing of by the gyms. And that's maybe the council needs to, I know we recognize the volunteer of the year, but even those volunteers of the year, they don't get, other than being a proclamation being read at the council meeting, they're not posted anyplace.
Right.
We
So
do have the plaque for it,
We have the plaque, but it's not up on the wall.
a place to post it, exactly.
Right. There's no place to put the plaque. And then the problem is as the plaque gets filled up, then you got to get the addendum plaque, and that's. So I think that's the whole bigger issue, as I see, is like I think we recognize the CERT team and Patty Foley, but other than that one meeting when they got the proclamation, how does their name live on in town history or lore?
Right.
And so we could have the veterans come in for cake and cookies, but then they're gone. I mean, we do the cake and cookies one Tuesday, and then who remembers them? The next. And that's I think what Frank's getting at. He wants some kind of a permanent recognition of those veterans. And certainly, proclamations are well and good, and they do get it part of the record, but I mean, unless you're James, you never know how to find that information. And so.
Well, what about town hall, Tim, or around the whole top of town hall? The mayors are on one side and volunteers of the year are big 9x17, whatever, 11 by 7.
Well, and that's the thing I was looking at when I was there Tuesday. I mean, there's two TVs up by the mayor's office, and there's 2 TVs down in the main concourse, I believe, or 1.
Mhm.
There's 3 actually.
3. And that's why I like the idea of having some kind of a scrolling thing. So,
Right, right.
So the Newington volunteer, the Newington Volunteer Fire Department and the veterans, they get up, they're on there, every 15 minutes or every, whatever. I have one of those little picture frames in my house where all the grandkids come up. They all get 15
Yeah.
seconds of fame. They all
Uh-huh.
roll around, but something like that, because we don't even have the veterans.
No, I mean, they got the one monitor that scrolls the pictures of the mayor.
Yeah, but we should be able to dedicate another
Veterans
monitor.
could easily be added to that. It's just, it's just something else for James to do in his spare time.
Right.
That's no problem.
And the mayors are important, but I think it's the volunteer groups like the veterans firefighters who are also important to the town, probably more so because they put in more time than sometimes the mayors do.
Right.
Certainly not more guff, but
Right.
but for 50 years they're being called out of dinner and birthday parties to go fight, the fire in my backyard.
Right. Well, whatever we do, we could add a little piece at the end. If you're interested in joining this committee, call whoever, maybe they'll get more takers.
Well, and that's also if you had something that scrolled up for the Newington Volunteer Fire Department, you could say, if you're interested, here's the number to call to volunteer to be a volunteer firefighter.
Yeah.
Or if you want to join, the Friends of the Library, here's the number to call.
Right. Yeah. Good idea.
Because I think all those groups are important and should be recognized somehow. So I know, James, we talked about this kiosk, and I think it kind of fell by the wayside because we had no plug, right? Is the issue we had no way to put it in.
Part of it was the plug. Part of it is our hardware replacement program that's going on right now. We finally have the ability, and actually it started to come in, to replace all the desktops that we meant to do as we were moving into the building. So with that and Paul leaving, we just got away from that kiosk right now. Hopefully, once the new director is on board, we can jump back onto that project.
Okay, because I think that's a critical project. I think it's the idea that you could go into town hall and type someone's name in and see how they contributed to the town. I think is a good thing. I think that's. I mean, I would think when I get off the council, someone would remember that I was on the council at one point. Other than my wife being happy I'm off the council. I don't know. There should be some recognition that at least he served these 8 years, and how many years I served. But I think we need some way to do that above this naming the street issue. I think they're 2 different things, but I think the naming the street issue is a separate.
I think we got to gather some information from what other towns are doing.
Okay.
Then and then set something up for the end of August.
And in the meantime, Frank, could you do me a favor?
Sure.
I don't want to put any more. I know you've been waiting on this for forever, and I apologize for the delay. But can you just give me send us or send all 3 of us and James a write up a difference between a veteran in the fire department and a veteran with your organization?
Okay.
Just because I think I understand the designation, but I'm not. I want to make sure I have.
I'll make it as simple as possible, Tim.
Yeah, dumb it down for me.
There is no difference or distinction between a veteran of our organization or a veteran in the Newington Volunteer Fire Department.
Okay.
There isn't any.
But you want
this veteran is a veteran once you reach that status. And right now, a veteran in the Newington Volunteer Fire Department gets that distinction after they reach 5 years of service. So anybody beyond 5 years of service
Is considered veteran.
is a veteran member of the Newington Volunteer Fire Department, which also could include the Newington veteran firefighters.
Okay. Yeah, I guess then, again, playing devil's advocate, someone say, well, you already got a street dedicated to you for being a veteran firefighter.
Not for veteran status, and that's the reason.
That's the
why-
difference. Yeah. So I guess I can have that spelled out in writing for me so I can have some kind of something to hang my hat on when someone asks why we have two streets. I think I see this distinction because most people in your group, I'm assuming, are not currently active firefighters.
That's correct.
Yeah.
These are the guys who have spent more than anywhere from 30 to 50 years of service.
And I'm
for the
assuming,
town of Newington.
they're not firefighters now, not because they don't want to be firefighters, but because physically they can't.
Physically, they can't. And,
Right.
and here again, I'm a member, and I only served 16 years with the Newington Volunteer Fire Department. But I'm a member of that organization.
Right.
So I'm not saying that, just using myself as an example, I'm not saying that I should be recognized because I served 16 years. But the fact is that I'm still alive, and I've got all of these individuals who certainly have spent a tremendous amount more time than I have, and it would be appropriate to recognize that part of their service in an ongoing manner. And here again, that's why I refer to it as past, present, and future members of the fire department. And distinct, and to be very distinctive, it's a great impetus where it should be located, where the Newington cadets are presently housed. So every time they see this, they say to themselves, this is something that I'm dedicated in doing, and maybe this is an impetus for them to continue their service in the volunteer fire department after they reach the age of 18. Because unfortunately, we do lose some people once they hit 18, but we're also trying to retain as many members as possible.
Right.
Again, that's something for them to look forward to.
Well, it also reminds the town that these people have put in their service, and
Correct.
they may not be as active by going out on regular fire calls, but they're still active in town and fire activities.
Yes, and other services that we do.
Right.
for-
Yeah. So it's not like you guys just sit around and just drink coffee and donuts.
Correct.
You have an organization that does things.
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
I think I got the gist of it. Okay. So James, you see what you can come up with on your review. John, you check with Leon Davidoff, and can we meet back? Let me look at my calendar here. August 25th.
That's fine.
Yeah, it looks good right now.
Okay.
That gives us about a month. I would meet earlier, but I'm on vacation the other 2 weeks.
All right. All right, and I'll see what I can find about West Hartford because my kids live there. We'll see.
Well, Leon
James will-
Davidoff is on the West
Yeah.
Hartford
I know.
Council.
I'm gonna talk to Leon personally, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the
Okay, so-
25th should work for us because we don't usually have any meetings that take place that Thursday.
That's the only, on my calendar, that's the only free night I have is for August is the 25th.
Right, and it's, as long as it's early enough, because I have a commitment at 7 on Thursdays.
Is 5:30 good?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, so let's do that.
We'll decide if we're in person or Zoom.
I would like to be in person.
okay.
Yeah, and I wouldn't see any reason not to. We don't have any events going on that evening, so it should be easy.
Right. Okay. Okay, sounds good.
So James, are we all set for the extravaganza? Do you know?
What do you mean?
Ask them.
as far as parking and setup and whatever,
I'm sure parking is at a premium at this point.
I'm
Yeah,
sure. All right,
Definitely.
well, we'll be there.
Saturday will be the test.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Saturday will be.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I think it's easier for me to walk from my house to get there than it is to
yes,
drive there and sit in
Definitely be
traffic.
faster.
very true.
Uber,
Yeah, that's, we need an Uber. Yeah, that's,
you drive your
I-
car there in the morning, walk home and then take an Uber back.
Mhm.
actually, I think, for fundraisers, I think if we could get the dollar ride buses to pick everybody up at their houses and drop them off at Constitution Park, parking lot, and we could walk over, it's.
Make a killing.
They could make a fortune. Cause I'd pay for
We
the ride.
used the high school one year and dropped people off at the high school. with
I don't
bus-
know if I think they did for the Lantern Festival they had. I'm not sure they did it for the
Okay.
water, for
I
the
think
fireworks.
Bill's doing that for the extravaganza as well.
Is he? Okay.
I believe so. Because they
Alright.
got to move all the buses over there anyway.
Right, because otherwise the that's all we need is a firework to
Yeah.
come down on the bus. Burn up a bus.
All
Okay.
right.
Anything else you want to say, Frank?
No, I think I pretty much covered what I would like to. I appreciate you, as a committee to hear me out. And if, I'm invited back to the next meeting, hopefully we'll have some good news.
Well, you're invited to any meetings we have, Frank.
Right,
Thank you very much.
okay.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Then I guess the meeting, or we can, if we adjourn now, we can get James off to his next meeting without much problem.
I already started it. Nobody else has showed up yet.
All right,
So the next meeting scheduled, we're already set for the next meeting.
Yep. August 25th. So we good?
okay,
Thank you.
Then a motion to
Alright.
adjourn's in order.
all right. See you all Saturday.
Yep, I'll be there someplace.
All right, me too.
Okay. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're done.